Hello Grucci, welcome to this three-part series I am now making called The Rock Wars. It's basically me just recounting the Rock Wars, which is in fact a real-life event. Speaking of which, at the time of making this, they aren't quite finished, but they're pretty much just wrapped up in nicely with a neat little bow on top, so I'm just going to consider them done at the time of making this. So, this whole Rock War thing kind of started in these woods, actually, and just some context, it's where I filmed 90% of my walk and talk, so, it all started when there was this kid, don't remember his name, my sister, I think, knew him, but, he hid, 5 rocks and 3 lawn gnomes in these woods, and that's kind of like a little fun thing to find, so I found them all. This was roughly around when I filmed my first walk and talk and Allen.mp4, kind of in that period, in between those two videos. So, yeah, that was fun to, go on a little scavenger hunt for and whatnot. But that's not quite the point, because, obviously people found them pretty quickly, and once you stop finding them, fun's over. No one wants fun to be over. So, they start hiding their own rocks, and it's kind of where all this begins. You may be asking yourself, why would this event called the Rock War have started when people started hiding their own rocks around? I mean, that just sounds like good, and it was good for like a week. But then people started hiding political rocks around and religious rocks around, and people that didn't agree with these views in this literal children's park grabbed the rocks, brung them home, smashed them, threw them way back in the woods, replaced them with their own rocks. And this is kind of the start of what I like to call the first Rock War. This is called the Rock Wars for a reason. And the forest just became this huge trove of rocks. It was insane. So you were just walking through and there was hundreds of rocks everywhere, and I would full on throw them back into the woods because some of them were just terrible. Some of them were really bad rocks and painted, and some of them were weird views on things, and I wouldn't throw those back. I only threw back 2 rocks because they were just glaring from the middle of some trees, and I'm trying to enjoy a nice walk. Anyways, so this went on for a while. Even I believe my sister actually painted some rocks and hid them back in the woods, and those eventually got thrown out, and this went on for quite some time. And yeah, and then eventually, all the rocks just kind of disappeared. I guess people actually took them, and they continued taking them, and eventually they all left, and a whole new trove of rocks showed up. So this wasn't ending anytime soon. There kind of needed to be one big, big person to come by and throw all the rocks back and replace them with their own rocks, which is something that happened that we'll get to in part 2. Like and subscribe.